Hello and welcome to News Tonight, your one stop for all the biggest news and events from across India and the world. I am Tina Jha and these are the headlines. Nawaz Sharif and daughter Maryam arrive in Pakistan. Former Pakistan Prime Minister asked supporters to stand by him for the sake of democracy. In Balochistan, at least 90 people killed and 120 injured in a blast at a political meeting. India invites US President Donald Trump to be the chief guest at Republic Day function next year. Top-level 2+2 strategic dialogue with US likely to take place in the first week of September, says Defence Minister Nirmala Sitharaman. Discloses that talks for S-400 missile deal with Russia have reached the final stage. Engage with coastal states to make them tsunami ready. Vice President M. Venkaiah Naidu tells scientists, advises them to make tsunami early warnings and storm surge predictions more accurate. Supreme Court pulls up I&B Ministry's decision to set up social media hub to monitor online data, calls the move a step towards creating a surveillance state, issues notice on Trinamool Congress MP Mahua Moitra's petition, seeks report from the government within 2 weeks. And SWACHH SURVEKSHAN GRAMIN launched to rank district states on the basis of rural cleanliness, ranking to be based on a comprehensive set of cleanliness parameters and data from Swachh Bharat mission in rural areas. And the top story this evening, India has invited US President Donald Trump to be the chief guest for the next year's Republic Day parade and celebrations. Trump had last year given a verbal consent to visit India during Prime Minister Narendra Modi's visit to the US. Last month, US Ambassador to the United Nations Nikki Haley had met Indian officials in Delhi in this regard. And the 2+2 dialogue between India and the United States, which was postponed recently, will now be held in September. This was confirmed by Defence Minister Nirmala Sitharaman. Defence and foreign ministers of both the countries will take part in first-of-its-kind dialogue. The agenda of the dialogue will be to further strengthen strategic and defence ties between the two countries. The United States had last month postponed the meeting for a second time. The 2+2 talks were agreed to by Prime Minister Narendra Modi and US President Donald Trump last year. The Indian Army is mulling abolishing cantonments across the country. Reports suggest that the Army has told the Defence Ministry that military areas within cantonments can be converted into exclusive military stations where the Army has absolute control, while civilian areas can be handed over to local municipal authorities for maintenance. Reports say that the top Army hierarchy feels the step will help reduce the strain on the country's defence budget for the annual maintenance of cantonments, as well as strengthen security in military stations, simplify land management and prevent encroachments. The proposal comes almost 250 years after the first cantonment to house troops was established at Barakpur by the British, and their number slowly grew to 62 over time. And to share his perspective on the subject, we're being joined in the studio by Major General P.K. Sehgal, retired, who's a defence expert. A very good evening, sir, and thank you for joining us on News Tonight. First of all, your opinion on the proposal, and how do you think, what are the ways in which this proposal is going to be beneficial?
I am afraid this proposal is extremely unsound and I cannot agree with it at all. The basis of this proposal is fourfold. Firstly, the Chief says that 476 crores will be saved, thereby reducing pressure on the defence budget.
Okay. One
Rafale costs 670 crores. These 476 crores will buy you only 20 T-90 tanks when you got 63 regiments. There are hundreds of better ways of making the army leaner, meaner, more professional and more effective. Several recommendations have been made by several committees. Not a single one has been agreed to or enforced by the government or the governments before the present government. Second, as far as security is concerned, recall when the Adarsh Housing Society came up, moral aspects notwithstanding, the Navy said that it poses a huge security threat. The builders will gain. There will be high-rise buildings that will come up because all this land is prime land all around the defense military cantonments, and they will dominate the military cantonments both by observation and fire, thereby causing a huge amount of criticality and security problems. When the Aero City was being put in place, remember how much the government of India was worried, because the Aero City gave direct access in terms of fire and observation over the runway at the IGI.
Yes.
And very many checks and procedures were put in place. Third aspect, he says that encroachments will stop. There are SOPs in place. If they are enforced sensibly and effectively, no encroachment takes place. In case of Adarsh Society, those who were supposed to ensure the security and safety of these defense land themselves were held accountable. Very many big shots were involved, which included chiefs of the army staff, chiefs of naval staff, etc., and several other officers. Not one of them was given exemplary punishment. Had exemplary punishment been given, this sort of a statement would not have been made.
Yes. This
And
time around...
fourth thing that he said, the cost of maintenance will come down. Once again, in our country, 62 cantonments stand apart in terms of order, in terms of orderliness, in terms of ambience. And their example as far as Swachh Bharat is concerned to the rest of the country. Moment you convert them into military stations, the chief saying that they'll be exclusively under the command of the army and hence they'll be more secure. Well, I headed one of the military stations myself at Gopalpur. And even there's a huge security problem. I had to go down to the chief of the Naveen Patnaik, who's the chief minister there. I had to personally get in touch with the Chief Justice of Odisha High Court, as well as personally get in touch with the Chief Justice of the Supreme Court of India to highlight the security implications of that area. So the chief's contention that the military stations would be far more secure is absolutely untrue. To that extent, I think this decision needs a total relook. We are playing to the gallery. We are playing into the hands of those who want to actually loot the nation.
That's exactly what my next question is going to be, sir. You spoke about the exclusive military stations, also the civilian areas. One major concern this time around is that the civilian areas under cantonments may benefit the land mafia. So do you think handing it over to local bodies, of course, is going to be a wise decision?
In the country today, we got 62 cantonments and 237 military stations. I personally do not feel that there will be any compromise whatsoever if we continue to maintain the military stations as they are and if they continue to hold cantonments as they are. Cantonments are something that is creating huge amount of envy in the civilian establishment, particularly the Babudam.
Yes.
They must be made to, they must be forced to make sure that they emulate military cantonments in terms of order, in terms of orderliness, in terms of ambience, in terms of greenery, in terms of everything else. Instead of also turning them into virtually something which is similar to the rest of the country. If you go to any cantonment, you have a breath of fresh air. There is no pollution there, or the pollution there is minimal vis-a-vis the rest of the city. So why do you want to create these oases of, I will say oases of fresh air also into something which is totally putrid, totally polluted and totally at par with what's happening in the rest of the country.
Right. Also, sir, one final question before we wind up. In the past, similar moves were made, but they failed. This time, what do you think? How does this proposal, how is this proposal different from the previous times, and what is its future going to be?
Security is something that continues to be a key concern. Today, each cantonment holds not only troops, they hold families, they hold equipment, the type of which cannot be replaced in case it is lost. From a single high-rise building, you can actually destroy a large quantum of equipment. A single reporter radar which is lying astride your roads in the cantonments costs 40 crores. A single Tunguska gun costs upwards of 32 crores a piece. And there is very many similar equipment. A T-90 tank that I spoke about costs 90 crores, 25 crores. Half of them are lying in the open because of lack of sheds, etc. And a single espionage agent or a single terrorist can play havoc in the security as far as this is concerned.
Yes.
25% of officers in the Indian Army have their families in these cantonments while they're serving in the border areas. Imagine the morale and motivation of theirs if 20 or 30 or 40 families are lost tomorrow because of some reasonably foolish decisions that we are beginning to take.
Yes.
Like for opening up the cantonment roads. It has drawn adverse comments from all over. Somehow or the other, the Ministry of Defence as well as the Defence Minister hasn't shown the gumption to take back the order, which has been met with ridicule by the serving officers as well as the veterans. In most of the cantonments, there were never any theft whatsoever. In several cantonments, after this order was, or roads were opened up, now thefts have started taking place on a regular basis. So is this adding to the security or is it taking away the security? Right. In place of those threats, if the thieves are being able to move in, imagine what happens if a trained terrorist of the variety that the LET or the Jaish-e-Mohammed or Hizbul Mujahideen, etc., if they manage to get in, which they will, what is that type of chaos and mayhem they will create, and what will be the implication on the morale and motivation of the people who are up on the front?
Certainly. When
they know that their families behind are not secure at all.
All right, sir. Many thanks for joining us on News Tonight and sharing your perspective on the thought, saying that it's not a wise decision to implement the proposal. Many thanks for joining us on News Tonight. Moving on, Vice President M. Venkaiah Naidu has called upon various scientific organizations in the country to work in synergy in order to improve people's lives. Speaking at the Indian National Center for Ocean Information Services in Hyderabad, the Vice President praised scientists working in the areas of ocean observations, information and advisory services. The Vice President urged scientists to work closely with coastal states and their disaster management units to prepare the coastal communities for any eventuality. The Vice President also suggested to INCOIS to integrate multi-hazard vulnerability maps with tsunami early warnings to give more accurate forecasts.
I have seen the multi-hazard vulnerability maps and the 3D GIS maps generated by INCOIS. I am sure that they will find enormous use in planning coastal infrastructure as also disaster mitigation. Meanwhile, I suggest you to integrate these maps with tsunami early warnings and storm surge predictions so that you can give a more accurate forecast of the areas that might get inundated due to tsunami or storm surge.
And Prime Minister Narendra Modi will begin a two-day tour of Uttar Pradesh on Saturday. During the visit, he will visit his parliamentary constituency of Varanasi and lay the foundation stone in Azamgarh for the 340 kilometers Purvanchal Expressway. The Prime Minister will also inaugurate other development projects and address rallies in Varanasi, Azamgarh and Mirzapur during the tour. The Prime Minister will also address 3 public rallies during his visit. He will meet with the party workers in the state. UP Chief Minister Yogi Adityanath, Minister of State for Railways Manoj Sinha and Petroleum Minister Dharmendra Pradhan will accompany the Prime Minister during his visit. Union Minister Arun Jaitley has said that while the Congress gave slogans to rural India, Prime Minister Narendra Modi actually gave them resources. In a detailed blog on Facebook, he said that the NDA government's policy on rural development is clear. Jaitley also listed in detail the various initiatives taken by the sector to improve the livelihood of rural India. He wrote that a total of 14.34 lakh crore rupees is to be spent on livelihood and infrastructure development in rural areas this year. Attacking opposition Congress, he wrote, the 1971 Garibi Hatao model was one of redistribution of poverty rather than the generation of wealth and resources. On to some other news, the Supreme Court on Friday took a strong note of the Information and Broadcasting Ministry's decision to set up a social media hub for monitoring online data. Observing that it will be like creating a surveillance state, the top court said the government wants to tap citizens' WhatsApp messages and sought its response within 2 weeks. A bench issued notice to the centre on a plea by Trinamool Congress legislator Mahua Moitra and sought Attorney General K.K. Venugopal's assistance in the matter. Recently, the Broadcast Engineering Consultants India Limited, a public sector undertaking under the ministry, had floated a tender to supply a software for the project. After a successful SWACHH survekshan of urban areas, the government has launched the Cleanliness Survey in the rural India. The month-long survey will begin on the 1st of August in all villages across the country. The government launched the SWACHH SURVEKSHAN GRAMIN 2018, a rural cleanliness survey aiming to make every village open defecation free by 2019. The month-long first-of-its-kind survey will begin on the 1st of August. Commissioned by the Ministry of Drinking Water and Sanitation, the survey is being conducted by an independent agency which will review cleanliness in the villages and prepare a report along with ranking the districts and states. The ranking will be based on district-level surveys of public places like schools, Anganwadis, Hard Bazaars, Panchayat and perception of Swachhata among the citizens.
600-700 सर्वेयर्स फील्ड में रहेंगे पूरे अगस्त के महीने में और 3 ब्रॉड कैटेगरीज हैं जिससे कि रैंकिंग होगा। एक होगा पब्लिक फीडबैक, तो सिटीजन्स फीडबैक को हम 35% वेट देंगे और डायरेक्ट ऑब्जर्वेशन को जो हमारे सर्वे टीम्स हैं उसको हम 30% वेटेज देंगे और जो हमारा मैनेजमेंट इंफॉर्मेशन सिस्टम है जिस पे हमारे सारे आंकड़े हैं उसको हम 35% वेटेज देंगे। सब मिला के एक वेट होगा और एक रैंकिंग होगा।
Top performing states and districts will be awarded on the 2nd of October. Under the SWACHH SURVEKSHAN GRAMIN, 6,800 villages in 680 districts across the country will be covered. 34,000 public places in these villages will be surveyed based on cleanliness parameters. As per government figures, over 72% villages across India have been verified open defecation free.
आपने जो सवाल पूछा राज्यसभा टीवी से, तो जो अन्य परियोजना है जैसे गोवर्धन है, गोवर्धन इज अंडर इम्प्लीमेंटेशन और इसमें अभी स्टेट गवर्नमेंट से काफ़ी डायलॉग हो चुका है, प्रोजेक्ट सेलेक्ट किए गए हैं और इसके डिटेल्स हम आपको अलग से दे सकते हैं। तो ये गोवर्धन का जो प्रोग्राम है ये अंडर इम्प्लीमेंटेशन है।
A meeting of representatives of centre and states was also held on Friday. In the meeting, the states were told to prepare for the SWACHH SURVEKSHAN GRAMIN. With inputs from Navikram Singh, Bureau Report, Rajya Sabha TV. And time for a very short break here. News and updates will continue on the other side. Welcome back. You're watching News Tonight. The Directorate of Revenue Intelligence has busted a 2,000 crore rupees money laundering racket at the Bharat Diamond Bourse in Mumbai. The racket was unearthed after the DRI conducted raids at the BDP at Bandra Kurla complex following a tip-off. The agency intercepted consignments of rough diamonds of low quality with a declared value of 156 crore rupees imported from overseas markets like Dubai and Hong Kong. However, a revaluation by experts showed that the diamonds were worth only about 1.2 crore rupees. 4 people have been arrested so far and cash worth 10 lakh rupees, demand drafts amounting to 2.2 crore rupees, checkbooks, Aadhaar cards and PAN cards were recovered during the raids. BDP Vice President Mehul Shah expressed shock over the racket. The Enforcement Directorate on Friday filed a charge sheet against industrialist and Congress leader Naveen Jindal along with 14 others for alleged money laundering. The case pertains to irregularities in the allocation of a Jharkhand coal block. In its final report, the ED alleged that Jindal's firm, Jindal Steel and Power Limited, along with others, influenced the screening committee to allot the coal block by investing more than 2 crore rupees in illegal gratification. The court put up the charge sheet against Jindal and 14 others for consideration on the 14th of August. At least 2 CRPF jawans were killed while one another sustained injuries in a militant attack in Anantnag district of Jammu and Kashmir. 1 civilian was also injured in the attack. Militants opened fire on a CRPF party deployed on law and order duty at the Achabal Chowk in Anantnag district, resulting in injuries to 3 jawans. 2 of the injured jawans succumbed to injuries. The area has been cordoned off and a hunt has been launched to track down the assailants.
Number of militants of various outfits is more in South Kashmir. That is why these incidents, more of them are happening in South Kashmir. Now, we have been doing a lot of result-oriented and very successful operations as well. But this is, I said, this is all part of the game. We'll take them very shortly.
Home Minister Rajnath Singh began a 3-day visit to Bangladesh on Friday. During the visit, Singh will meet Bangladesh Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina and hold discussions on various issues like anti-terror cooperation, attempts by terror groups to radicalize the youth, security and border management. Rajnath Singh and Sheikh Hasina will jointly inaugurate a new state-of-the-art integrated Indian visa application centre in Dhaka. He will be accompanied by top officials of the ministry and the Border Security Force. The delegation will also discuss steps to be taken to strengthen the existing mechanism to check movement of illegal immigrants and influx of Rohingya refugees. Former Andhra Pradesh Chief Minister Kiran Reddy returned to the Congress fold on Friday, 4 years after quitting the party. Congress's communications in charge, Randeep Surjewala, announced Reddy's return to the party after the former Chief Minister met party President Rahul Gandhi at his residence. Reddy joined the party in the presence of AICC Andhra Pradesh in charge Uman Chandi, Randeep Surjewala and APCC Chief N. Raghuveera Reddy at the AICC headquarters in New Delhi. Kiran Reddy had quit as Chief Minister as well as the Congress party in February 2014, protesting against the bifurcation of Andhra Pradesh.
The special status and special incentives, railway zone, the universities and institutions, nearly 11 universities to Andhra Pradesh, then AIMS in Telangana and Andhra Pradesh, all this have not been implemented in spite of 4 years.
Heavy rains lashed the national capital region on Friday, bringing the much-needed respite from hot and humid weather. But the downpour caused waterlogging and congestion in several parts of the city. Commuters had a tough time wading through waterlogged roads. Traffic signals also stopped working at some places, causing massive traffic jams. The Met Department has predicted more rains in the Delhi-NCR region over the next few days. So heavy rains lashed the city, Delhi-NCR region today. Although it provided a respite from the hot and humid weather, there was congestion and waterlogged roads in several parts of the city. The commuters had a harrowing time reaching their homes after office. Facing arrest, Pakistan's former Prime Minister Nawaz Sharif and his daughter Maryam have landed in Lahore. They are expected to be arrested at the airport itself. 40 PMLN leaders are accompanying them. In fact, they accompanied them on the flight. In a video message, Nawaz Sharif urged his followers to stand with him and change the fate of the country. Over 10,000 policemen are deployed in the city to check any untoward incident or show of strength by the supporters of the three-time Prime Minister of Pakistan. The Punjab government has suspended mobile and internet services in Lahore. Many of his supporters have also been detained. Sharif and his daughter are returning to Pakistan just ahead of the general elections in the country to face a prison sentence. The sentence was handed out on the 6th of July by an accountability court in the Avonfield Properties case. This is one of the 3 corruption cases against him following the Panama Papers scandal. And at least 90 people, including a candidate, were killed on Friday in a deadly blast during election rallies in Pakistan's restive Balochistan and Khyber Pakhtunkhwa provinces. More than 150 people were also injured in the blast. According to reports, militants targeted a gathering of the Balochistan Awami Party leader Siraj Raisani in the Mastang area of Balochistan province, killing him and several others. Meanwhile, the nature of the attack was not known and police and intelligence agencies were trying to figure out if it was a suicide bombing. The attack reportedly came hours after a bomb hit a rally in the Bannu area of Khyber Pakhtunkhwa province. The Pakistan Tehreek-e-Taliban claimed responsibility for the attack on the ANP rally. And sprinter HIMA scripted history by becoming the first Indian woman athlete to win a gold in the women's 400 meters final race in the ongoing IAAF World Under-20 Athletics Championship. The 18-year-old was a pre-tournament favorite. She clocked a 51.46 seconds to win the gold, which triggered a wild celebration at the Indian camp. Though her personal best was 51.13 last month in Guwahati at the National Interstate Championships. No woman before Das has won a gold medal in a world championship at any level, be it youth, junior or senior. President Ramnath Kovind, Prime Minister Narendra Modi and Sports Minister Rajyavardhan Rathore congratulated HIMA Das on the historical performance. And that's it from us in this bulletin. Thanks for your time.